called Alfred Naro.
Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of the Search and Surveillance Bill that has been significantly amended and approved. I want to acknowledge the work of the Select Committee and officials for addressing the broad sweeping concerns. Mr. Speaker, I too have just signed up to the Facebook page by my colleague in regards to Dennis O'Rourke with the comments that he has made, and especially the word trilema. In quick researching, found out that the word trilema means in a situation where it is difficult to make a choice. Three options can be chosen from, and each of which are unacceptable and unfavourable. In further research, it sees that the earliest use of this term was by the British preacher William Henry in 1672, Dennis, and then by Isaac Watts in 1725. But most importantly, the word trilema comes from the Greek philosopher Epicurus. Epicurus was a philosopher who was to attain a happy, tranquil life characterised by peace and freedom. I think the thing is this word trilema used by Dennis reflects also to some of the choices that were made and the comments by the Labour Party as well, the Honourable David Parker, when they were saying this is a good bill, but maybe not a great bill. So they're in a difficult situation where they applaud the bill, the work of the bill, but at the same time they're not quite sure. And so I'd like to affirm them that the fact is that, we get to a point where we say it's good enough to serve the needs of the people of this community. And I want to just sort of make this point. Recently, I was facilitating a community session where we talked about the agenda for children and we talked the rights about the children in our communities. The adults in the room talked about the children's rights to a good education, the right to appropriate healthcare services, and the right to feel safe and secure in their own community. One of the children put their hand up and said, "Mr. Ngaro, with all these rights, then who will be responsible?" Mr. Speaker, out of the mouth of babes, wisdom abounds. Who will be responsible? This bill seeks to strike a balance between the need for responsibility of effective law enforcement tools while protecting the rights of citizens and children as set out in the Bill of Rights Act. Mr. Speaker, I love the way that children have a way of cutting through the complexity often created by adults and saying it simply. The current laws regarding search and surveillance are messy, unclear and outdated. This bill will provide what the Law Commission called for to bring order and what might be called the CCs of law: consistency, clarity and certainty. It will put all our law about search and surveillance in one place, rather than being scattered throughout numerous statutes as it currently is. Mr. Speaker, this bill will take responsibility for effective law enforcement tools by consolidating police powers from several different pieces of legislation as well as case law, by introducing some new powers such as examination orders, production orders, surveillance device warrants and warrantless power to preserve evidence of serious offences, punishable by 14 years imprisonment or more. But these new powers are also about balancing the protection of human rights. The bill explicitly states that its purpose is to balance law enforcement and investigation powers with human rights values. There are a number of safeguards in the bill to achieve this. First, the bill adheres to the basic concept that independent authorisation is needed before exercising search powers. Enforcement officers must justify the exercise of search powers to neutral issuing officers. Secondly, there are detailed reporting requirements to the issuing officer, the chief executive of the relevant agency and to Parliament on the exercise of search and surveillance powers. These allow search powers to be monitored to ensure that they are being used properly and not being abused. The most important thing is that the Act will be reviewed in 2016 to ensure it's being operated properly. And thirdly, the bill doesn't affect the New Zealanders' right under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act in 1990 to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. Finally, Mr. Speaker, safeguards include enforcement officers who will make false search warrant or surveillance warrant applications will be penalised. More serious powers like examination orders may only be authorised by judges and not just any issuing officer. Issuing officers from any agency can issue warrants to enforcement officers from the same agency to ensure neutrality and impartiality. Issuing officers may be removed from office for neglect or misconduct. So, Mr. Speaker, not only do I support this bill, but I also have full confidence that this bill will be well received through the law enforcement community, through the justice community, and most importantly through the residential community of New Zealand, where ordinary Kiwis, and especially our children, want to know that they can trust in the powers that be to ensure their safety and well-being.
I understand the next call is a split call between Mana and the Greens. Honi Hawera.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Kia ora tātou katoa e te whare.